win the game.
That's okay. You'll be an air quotes beta tester. Okay, so we see that some of the people can't join the stream because we have maximum people. Please let them know that they can watch the stream through Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. We have streams up on these links they just posted in general. So go ahead and watch it from there. So go
Okay,
ahead and
it's me,
watch.
Sparkly Unicorn. I'm joined by my co host, Witty Unicorn. This day has been a blast. We've had music, vibing, and games. Now we're about to get to the main event.
Exciting to see the combination of the Laguna Games team's efforts over the past few weeks. We've worked hard on this, and we hope you'll like it. We're on a voice channel, which is different from the usual AMA stage, where we hold our weekly AMAs. If you're having some trouble, you can also watch us on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
That's right. We're continually posting links in journal chat and we have them up on the community updates channel as well. We know you've been waiting for this, so we won't delay it further. Here to present our roadshow is Aron Beierschmitt, Crypto Unicorn CEO and co-founder. Let's get a little Ubu train going on in journal chat for Aron. Remember how he likes it? Two small U's, one big W right in the middle, just like this. All right, we're getting that Ubu train going slowly but surely. I love it. Everybody say Ubu for Aaron. Hey, Aaron. Good morning. What do you have for us today?
Good morning, Sparkly. So much to talk through today. I am terrible at keeping secrets, so the fact that I've kept some has been a real journey for me personally. Um, but I'm excited to dive in. All right. Without further ado, today is a very special day for us. It actually marks the exact 1 year anniversary of our pivot into the Web3 game space. And what an incredible year it has been. There have been, for myself and the team, the highlights of our careers. We've had a few lowlights along the way as well. And all through it, we've stuck together and I think continue to progress on a path that is very, very exciting. So I view this deck ultimately as a celebration of kind of everything that we've accomplished together. And I'm so pumped to run through it. So let's start with some highlights. Slide, please. First off, is that a high-res corn? Interesting. Looks pretty good. Y'all should know this. I'll run through it quick. Over 2,000 ETH in primary sales, all flowing up into our community-run treasury. 18,000 ETH in secondary volume. We've become a top project on Polygon. And we are now the 112th, creeping up on the top 100 NFT projects of all time across all chains. For an L2 focused project, or an L2 first project, I should say, this is a really incredible achievement, especially given we are just getting started. Slide, please. So before I start to kind of leak alpha all over the floor, let's just reinforce a couple of principles. First and foremost, on-chain decentralized ownership. We took the extra work, effort, pain, and hassle to print to Arweave on demand as NFTs get minted. We leverage Chainlink for randomness. Ultimately, even if we disappear tomorrow, Crypto Unicorns lives forever. That's important. It's a fundamental tenet and primitive of the space, and it's something that I'm proud that we started with. Doubling down on that, we intend to make good on the promise of allowing people to download the fully rigged 3D models for their corns. Our technical artists, or production art lead, I should say, Chris Minar, is going to be building a tool that will integrate on the website to allow you to download your corns. And I'm very excited to see what people come up with when they can get their hands on their very own unicorns. In that vein, we've from the beginning had full commercial rights. If it's in your wallet, you own it and you can do what you want with it. I think that's very important. And again, a fundamental tenet of the space. This NFT is something that you legitimately own that we can't take away from you, or if for some reason we don't pay server bills, it suddenly disappears. And ultimately, I kind of view our NFTs as products that represent an extendable platform. It starts with this immutable base layer, and over time you can layer things on top of it. And I think there's really interesting avenues, some of which we'll talk through today, like layering in bits of AI and UGC that add functionality, increased utility, and more entertainment value for the things that you hold. Next slide, please. All right, so taking inspiration from projects like Forgotten Runes and Wizards Cult, huge shout out to them. We want UGC to be at the center of the Corn multiverse. In the future, our community team will be hosting events to build out our overarching storyline and invite the community to participate in contests. So ultimately, we'll leverage a governance vote to confirm and memorialize our canon on chain. So I'm very excited to see who among the community will win our lore master badges. All the fan fiction writers in the community, get ready. I really can't wait to see how our world history develops and learn all the details of the Shadowcorn versus Unicorn conflict. And all of these efforts very much prepare us for what I consider the media expansion phase. We've begun actively discussing with a number of groups, including the Gotham Group based in Hollywood, on both a comic book as well as a TV series. I think it's clear we have a really phenomenal kind of foundational IP that has broad resonance, not only across gender, but globally. It's good to see that be recognized, and I'll be excited to share more details in the near future on that. Next slide, please. Okay, to date, we've not really had the concept of avatars or player names in the game. And this is, of course, a bit of a gap because this is a very traditional thing across games pretty much since the beginning. So today I'm actually excited to announce a partnership with Lens Protocol. They are a leading Web3 native social graph protocol. We think it's important that rather than kind of build a siloed identity system, we feel it's much more valuable to build on top of an existing network. Starting today, all of our community members' wallet addresses have been whitelisted, and you can go and claim your social handle at claim.lens.xyz. We'll share the link in chat. Definitely go in there and claim your handle. The real question is, what do we plan to do with this? When released, our avatar system will automatically detect and read your Lens handle, which is going to become your player name. You're going to be allowed to select from a slate of gummy characters you may have seen in some of the jousting trailers. They're kind of the player representations in this world. The most important thing, though, is how it interoperates with our existing badges. I've been teasing for a long time that badges would have some functionality and tie into game. Badges effectively are going to have XP points, which level up your avatar. Over time, leveling up your avatar will open up equipment slots. This is going to allow you to slot equipment and provide passive bonuses and potential rewards, similar to what you would see in a 4X strategy game with the commander character. This avatar system is going to exist in app.cryptounicorns.fun and kind of become the central hub for all things unicorns. As a kind of teaser, this is going to tie very closely into our staking V2 system, which is going to boost rewards for active gameplay, and in particular for players that are very skilled in getting achievements and these badges and things. And so it not only allows us to recognize people who've made contributions to the community, but really focus in on people who have, hit top land level, got your gathering carts to 10, harvested a certain number of berries and hit farming milestones. And so you're going to see this avatar system begin to permeate our entire ecosystem, and some of the other announcements that I'm about to go into. And I, again, view it as kind of this central hub for us. It will also help us when player support requests come in. We know the difference between a level 1 and a level 10 or 20 player. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So again, we're building it on top of Lens protocol. That means that once you have your Lens handle, you'll be able to leverage it across the entire ecosystem of Lens dApps. And of course, we will leverage it as what we read and tie how we read and tie your player identity to the game. Next slide, please. Listen, we cannot build a generational IP alone. And so today, kind of without further ado, I'm very excited to announce a series of partnerships with an incredible group of developers globally. Let's start with the first one. Slide, please. Shout out to my 90s babies out there. I was a huge fan of Tamagotchi, and with this project, we want to experiment with new ways for you to interact with your corns. Our partners at Multiversal Ventures, check them out on Twitter, give them a follow, are AI experts who've built some pretty sweet tech, allowing us to effectively attach like a little AI personality to your favorite corns. So we kind of view this as an interactive toy and plan to layer in fun loops over time. So here's the roadmap with the that we're going to need to involve the community in, because we actually need your help. The first version is going to be data collection to help train the machine learning models for camera interactions. At the end of this training phase, the unicorns will actually be able to recognize and respond to commands, which should be a lot of fun. My Tamagotchi always just pooped on me. The next version of that is going to be an interactive viewer. This will run in web, and so it will make it, even on mobile, much easier for you to show off your favorite corns to friends and family in a more interactive and engaging fashion than what you would get with a kind of boring static JPEG. The second version will bring Tamagotchi elements into the mix, allowing you to care for your favorite corns and earn rewards. And then V3 is going to be these fun mini games like hopscotch and memory, where you can actually begin to test the AI of your corn versus others, which should be really very interesting. At the end of the day, this starts as a toy, and through community involvement, community feedback, we can grow it as big as we want it to be. And so I'm very excited to kind of see this occur. This is the actual real UI here. Every unicorn will come in these little boxes to kind of run around and do fun things over time. You'll be able to open it up. Again, with the hopscotch and kind of the games, be fun. All right, let's level it up. Let's level it up. Next slide, please. All right, next we have what we're calling Unicorn Party. So Unicorn Party is being built in partnership with Coda. Coda is a successful hyper-casual mobile game publisher with over 100 million installs under their belt. The studio developing the game is called Sabatsu. I highly recommend people check out some of their other live games today. They're very impressive and very talented mobile dev with deep experience, in particular in hyper-casual. So these titles are going to be launched first on iOS and Android as individual applications that are tied together via our web app. So players can look forward to daily, weekly, monthly challenges, live events. Each one of these experiences, each one of these games, and I'll talk about Mob Run and Bumper Corns individually here, but each one of the games that we release under the Unicorn Party banner will always be tied together via kind of shared meta leaderboards and events. I was a huge fan of Mario Party growing up and loved going in and playing all of these different mini games. And so what if you could build a Mario Party-like experience and tie it together first off with real-time PvP gameplay, and then again, this kind of shared meta layer where you can compete in individual battle loops as well as across multiple battle loops over time, potentially even form guilds and compete as guilds against each other to rank up and compete in these loops. Some people may recognize these. These are popular hyper-casual titles that we've reskinned with the Unicorn IP. So on the left, we have Mob Run. It'll be you and 9 other players in real time running around. Obviously, this is the Omnom level, if you couldn't tell. We'll have levels per class that are obviously unique to that class. You bring your unicorns in, you start to run around trying to build the largest mob that you possibly can. I've always really enjoyed this hyper casual loop personally. And again, this gives us a really compelling way to expand the economy of the game, right? Obviously, RBW and Unim will be needed to, for entry fees and a lot of these. And then based on, how you rank in the overall outcome, there's a redistribution of those rewards. And separate of that, at the meta layer, you have leaderboards and points leading to things like keystones and loot boxes and in-game materials that will benefit you in the other loops. So what you'll see more and more as we announce more things in this deck, things that we don't even have in this deck in the future, you're going to see this constant interconnected weaving of our economy between these loops. So beyond Mob Run, we have Bumper Corns. Bumper Corns is the classic 10 players at the start. The map collapses over the course of the game, and you try to bump each other off and be the last one ultimately standing. It's a very, very fun, quick hit PvP experience. I need to be clear, traditional hyper casual games pit you against bots. We are actually building real-time PvP with our partners Coda and Zabatsu Interactive. So this one I am extremely pumped for and can't wait to get in the hands of players. The last thing I'll say on this is with each of these, you can expect an ongoing Discord channel with weekly updates on progress. As we get towards playable builds, we'll begin actively playtesting with members of our community. If you are in the Founders channel, you will always be the first to get to try these experiences and provide feedback. I think it's really incredibly crucial that we get things in the hands of players as early as possible. I think we learn from our experience around launch in particular. And I want to actively, build products and experiences that ultimately people are going to love. And I think to do that, we make sure the community is embedded in the actual process as early as possible. And we plan to use kind of our phenomenal community team and all of our well-run event infrastructure to begin to point it less at entertainment events, as we've been doing predominantly in Discord, and more towards game building events. So anyway, phenomenally excited to announce Unicorn Party. It starts with these 2 mini games. Over time, we will plan to build more, especially if the battle loops really resonate with people. And we'll even be running design contests to design the 3rd battle loop. All right, next slide, please. All right, everyone, this one is, oh man, so Rainbow Rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. This is Fall Guys meets Unicorns. I don't know how else to put it. We're working with an incredible developer called Iguana Bee. They've been around for over a decade. They're a cross-platform dev. They've worked on some very big IPs for groups like Hasbro and others. We have been working with them for quite some time on getting I think a really compelling Wipeout meets Fall Guys experience with your unicorns. Obviously, what this gives us and what really excites me is it becomes a sandbox by which we can build experiences on top of. And so we'll start with a few levels and then actually actively work with the community to help build and design different different levels and different experiences that I think are going to be really incredibly fun. So Rainbow Rumble is one that I just cannot wait to begin to play and experience. And again, same with Unigachi, same with Unicorn Party. As early as possible, this is going in the hands of our community to help us playtest, refine, improve, and ideate on so that we can ultimately deliver the best possible experience to our community. Core loop wise, similar to Unicorn Party, there will be entry fees, usually in RBW and Unim, sometimes in other things. Based on your position at the end of the set of rounds, you will obviously get a distribution of those rewards. Then it is all, again, kind of tied together in a shared meta leaderboard, which will run daily, weekly, potentially monthly events, as well as live tournaments to keep things constantly kind of fun and exciting. And the rewards that you gain out of these games can be, in some cases, transferred back into the main game in the form of loot boxes, or you might win golden tickets and other items that we kind of haven't announced yet. That again tie all of this together. These aren't bolt-on auxiliary experiences. I view them as tightly tied, interoperable battle loops. All right, let's go on to the next one, please. So we've been thinking a lot about Team RPG, and I think it's really important that ultimately we build something that's pretty kick-ass. And I think in an effort to build the best game possible, we feel it's necessary to rapidly prototype and iterate on a few concepts to kind of gather feedback from the community and ultimately select a direction for our team to run in. Again, our esteemed kind of Founders Badge holders and members of the Founders channel are going to be the first to kind of get their hands dirty and help us ensure that there's like quality and actionable feedback. In this effort, we've partnered with the wonderful Altitude Games. Some of you may know this is actually Gabby from YGG's studio to effectively develop not one, but two playable prototypes. So on the left here, you have a Match 3 Team RPG version, and on the right, you have our original design, which was an auto chess auto battle. I think taking a step back, obviously, the auto chess auto battle has heavy competition relative to other projects in the space. It obviously faces heavy competition from many incredibly successful Web 2 games. I've had an idea for a long time that a real-time Match 3 team RPG might be a really phenomenally kind of like unique avenue or direction for us to take that fits with the IP. If you lean into kind of a Puzzles and Dragons style of Match 3, you have a very, actually a very high skill curve in that match or in that gameplay mechanic. And ultimately, I think it's a good avenue to test. But what do I know, right? So the idea is that we'll play test this with our community and ultimately put up a governance vote to determine the winning gameplay mechanic. And from there, we'll build out and release the fully fledged experience in 2023. So listen, we're going to be sharing more details on all of these in the near future. Every single one of these projects has kicked off and is in the pre-production GDD phase. Be on the lookout for, again, updates as we focus in on again, this is what community-led game development looks like, and I'm very, very excited to develop these titles together. While the LG team, the LG core team continues to move forward with the current roadmap. It's been really phenomenal looking to various partners. There were a few that wanted to be a part of this deck and just didn't make the cut. We have really built something special enough that others want to work on it. I want to make that really clear. And so, again, reinforcing a couple of things. Look out for channels in Discord per project for weekly updates. You can follow the ones you're most interested in. As we get playable builds, we're going to be getting these in the hands of players for early testing. Founders channel members will always be the first to get access. And again, I believe we can collectively build better titles in this fashion than the traditional kind of silo that developers work in, as is more traditional in the industry. Alrighty, one more big piece of alpha. So we have been awarded as a community one of the 100 nodes that secure the Polygon network. This is a phenomenal win for us as a community. This validator will be owned and secured by the DAO Treasury, and a portion of the rewards will obviously flow into the Treasury. The other portion will be distributing to players to help cover network gas fees. So this is something that positions us as again, it's frankly, it's an honor to be one of the validators on the Polygon network and take our side or our place alongside groups like Decentral Games and DraftKings and many others. So I'm very, very happy that they've kind of recognized our contributions to the ecosystem. And yeah, I mean, this is a real phenomenal win and actually does produce some passive income for the treasury, which is phenomenal. All right, next slide, please. So everyone, our goal from the beginning has been to create a generational IP around a native Web3 experience. And this vision has not changed since I mentioned it in the very first page of our white paper in October of 2021 of last year. We very much view the roadmap as kind of this interconnected series of off-chain and on-chain live events that we operate in tandem with our community. I believe that this is our path to victory and how we continue to produce an experience that creates both excitement and variety for players globally. What started with Dark Forest Act 1 and led into our farming launch, land vending machine launch. We've got Shadowcorn staking coming up, and then quests and jousting. Act 2, Tribes, Unigachi, Racing, Unicorn Party, Dark Forest Act 3, Team RPG, and Rainbow Rumble. It's especially when you add the second party partnerships to this, I believe we can deliver on a more consistent cadence and, again, continually add variety and fun to our overall ecosystem. So that's it, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join. I would love to get into QA. I guess quickly taking a step back, before we do, I do want to take a moment to kind of address the last release, the current state of the build, and kind of where we're headed. First off, I do want to apologize to our community. I know you waited very long for the last release, and for it to come out with issues is unacceptable. And it was unfortunately a combination of some silly mistakes caused both the delay and the spike in server response times after. If you haven't already, please check out the post from my co-founder, Zesty Beans, who's planned all of our performance improvements and gone into some very granular detail on where the issues are and how we fix them. And going forward, you really should continue to expect a return to this level of transparency. I've reflected a lot this week and had some feedback from members of our community. And, I think in the chaos of post-launch firefighting, ramping up new team members, trying to line up product design, engineering roadmaps, trying to get these partnerships closed, like we've pulled back from the community a little bit. And I think at times, I've come off even flippant or dismissive of concerns regarding things like OpenSea issues or the Unim liquidity. The reality is that's just a symptom of the high stress environment myself and the team are kind of, have been living in. And I understand that if we fail to stop embracing the feedback, particularly constructive feedback, we're in trouble. Like, that's the only way that we can work to make the system stronger. And final point is that, it is not lost on us that we have a window of opportunity here before the next generation of titles launch on the market. And it is very much our priority to not drop or fumble this moment. And we understand that our focus should be on performance improvements and quick UX wins. That is the focal point of the next release. That will kind of smooth the on-ramp for new players as we look towards new growth. 3 last things, because there was too much alpha in the deck for me to kind of put everything in. Be on the lookout for details on our Staking V2 program. It leans very heavily into effectively a boost system that boosts rewards for active gameplay. I think it's going to realign some of the mismatch between passive staking and active gameplay. It's something we watch the data on daily. We've been thinking about a lot. And so I'm very excited to see that. Next, we do have plans for minimum liquidity and the idea of kind of a fill the pool event. So be on the lookout for details on that front. And then lastly, I have rerun the votes, the last few votes that have happened, and just looked at what would have happened had we had a quadratic voting system. Ultimately, the votes would have been much closer. They still would have gone the same way, but they would have been much, much, much closer. Quadratic voting, I kind of view as a really good move for us to make as a DAO, and a transition that we should make that's going to increase the strength of the smaller holders. Obviously, larger holders are certainly not left out, but especially in situations where there's multi-choice votes and things of that nature, it will ensure that everyone feels that they can be impactful and heard. As much as there's been this resistance to DAOs and this pushback against them, which I get because predominantly in the space, most of them are really not DAOs. We are very much a community-led, community-run treasury and DAO, and I'm happy that we have 60% of the stake supply, or the circulating supply of RBW staked. I'm happy that we have nearly 50% of that supply voting on every single proposal. Like, we have these metrics that no other project can really point to, and I think it signals active interest and excitement in what we are building. And everything that we've announced today is very much designed around, listen, we have a phenomenal IP. We have a great core team. We have a wonderful community. We've gotten all these additional developers to come and begin to build unique and fun experiences on top of our ecosystem. Let's all work together. Let's take this next step. Let's transition into the growth phase, and let's take our steps towards market dominance. Alrighty, I am ready for Q&A.
Oh my goodness, that presentation was spectacular. What do you think, Whitney? Whitney, are you too surprised from the
Sorry.
shock?
Sorry, I was
You
on mute. I
good?
was actually talking. Well, what's your favorite
Well,
from
my
those?
favorite part is Unigachi. Like, I love my unicorns and I can't wait to interact with them. I mean, I already have a cat, but it's nice to have an interactive pet that won't scratch back. Don't you think that's exciting? What about you?
Fair, fair. Well, I actually love being competitive, so it's definitely Rainbow Rumble for me. Gotta watch out for my name in the leaderboards, yo.
Oh, you're on, buddy. All right. How about you, Unicorn Fam? What did you like? What did you love? What questions do you have in mind? So, looking at chat, lots of people excited right now. League more alpha. Like Aaron said, we had so much alpha it didn't even fit in this deck. So we're heading to the AMA portion of the roadshow. Let us know your thoughts and questions, and Aaron will answer. Since we're not doing this on the usual AMA stage, we have a different set of rules to follow. If you want to ask a question, please head over to the AMA questions channel. State that you want to ask a question. For example, just type, I want to ask a question in voice. If you want to ask a question through text, then just type out the question. We'll choose people one by one according to when they posted their message and whether it's a voice or written question. We'll unmute that specific person and say hi. Once you are unmuted, feel free to ask your question. Take note that we prioritize spoken questions over written ones. Let's begin. The floor is open for questions. Okay, let's check out AMA questions. Witty, can you give me a written question?
Sure, let's have one from Rubik. It's, can we make the Fall Guys Crypto Unicorns game version have stats affect the abilities like jump, bump, speed, and etc.? At the very least, make this game mode optional. Make stats matter.
That is up to the community. That's the reality of how we're building this. Y'all will be able to provide feedback on the GDD, and if you want to lean more into stats-based gameplay over pure skill-based gameplay, we can chat about it. I think we do have some ideas. I mean, there's one way to do it. You can do mythic only tournaments. You can actually do stats based kind of gates into certain tournaments and things like that. And then everything is still gated by what you have, but then ultimately based on skill. Um, there's also some ideas around over time allowing items like you to craft certain things that you would then take into these titles. I mean, that's part of it. Like, we've done all this extra work and it took forever to get things like keystones working, and that means that we have this functionality to craft something off chain and put it on chain. That's a very special kind of exciting thing that gives us a bunch of like base layer functionality to make things as interoperable as possible. So generally, because jousting and racing stats are going to matter in the core game roadmap, I've been thinking, particularly with Unicorn Party, that it would be very pure skill based. With Rainbow Rumble, could kind of go either way. So yeah, I look forward to the community discussion on that front and us kind of figuring out the path forward.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. By the way, I will always be grateful for how active our Unicorn fam is on the governance forum. Please continue to create threads for ideas and draft proposals for crypto unicorns. Go to the forum at forum.cryptounicorns.fun and share your thoughts with the rest of the community. Step by step, we will make crypto unicorns fully decentralized. We have a question from Jenkins from the Twitch stream. So, no Snoop Dogg collab?
um, we are still working through several conversations with various celebrities. I will say that Snoop Dogg, I think as a brand, he's kind of gone and done a bunch of different things. We did have some conversations with Nick Adler, his manager. Ultimately, I think it's going to behoove us to find a celebrity that where we'd be their first partnership. I'm pretty interested in that in particular. And nothing to announce on that front yet, and probably leaning a bit away from Snoop as he's kind of done a bunch of things in the space, which I think is great. But again, I'd want to kind of be the full focus on a celebrity's plate, or at least their first project in the space. And also trying to find the right one that wants to be very collaborative and isn't just interested in kind of taking a check and having a very like finite experience. So as we mentioned before, we have reached out and talked to Deadmau5 and Diplo's teams, and of course Snoop's. So that's an ongoing thing and something that we're obviously actively trying to source, especially as we look to enter the growth phase here.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron. Let's have another written question, Witty.
All right, we've got one from Arxis. What are the timelines for go live of the games presented? Unigachi, Unicorn Party, and Rainbow Rumble.
Q4 and Q1 are the current milestone targets for all those studios.
All right. Well, we have the next question we have is from Blackfield. When trailer? I was hoping we could watch it all together in the stream. Besides that, awesome roadshow. I'm amazed that mini games are so much better than Axie's Builder already.
So this is kind of funny. Zentrix, our partner on the trailer, failed to deliver on time. Look at that. Other people can be slightly slow. You actually saw the CGI corns throughout the presentation for the most part. So all those high-res corns are literally renders from the trailer itself. They just haven't finished lighting and all of that stuff. So it's the date they gave us was sometime next week. I'm pretty interested in maybe holding that back till the performance release, so that we can kind of use it as a kickoff point for growth and begin to onboard users post the performance update. So it's coming soon. It is coming soon. It was definitely a bit frustrating that we couldn't watch it all here together, Blackfield.
We really wanted to, though.
I
Can
know.
we
I
have
did.
the next question?
Sure, it's from the boss. How do the partners benefit from the games they build for CU?
Yeah, so in this case, I have pulled them under the LG budget, and so they are all getting paid to build these games and are excited to participate in our ecosystem. If they go well over time, we might look to put forward some some grant proposals via the ecosystem fund. Um, you have to understand a lot of these devs are in a really tough place with the state of kind of Web3 and mobile. It's become nearly impossible for a small studio to self-publish and self-publish successfully. So they're forced into either work for hire or pretty restrictive publishing deals. And so I have very much experienced that based on what we kind of went through with Warner Brothers. And um, I can't stress enough the excitement that these devs have had around being able to work on such a unique IP such as ours. And yeah, I mean they're incredibly pumped about it. Um, and especially getting to do something that's like creative and fun and not us just like handing them a list of requirements and telling them to go build it is also great. We specifically source these developers through my pretty extensive network, based on their history, their working history, as well as we really looked for teams that would take creative ownership and people that we would trust with this brand, with our brand.
Yeah, we're all about collaboration and working together here. Remember to look out for channels in the Discord where we can update you with the progress in these games. Next question.
This one's from The Truth. How does the ramp look for funding of new initiatives and onboarding of new employees? Are we looking or sourcing outside funding or relying on sales?
I am very interested at this moment in looking at additional funding specifically for Laguna. I think the crypto unicorns treasury with over 24 million in it is well capitalized and still presents 2.5 years of runway. Um, Going back to my first point in the deck, like it has literally been a year today. And I do think we've accomplished an enormous amount in that period of time, especially to transition from a team that really outside of me was not in this space at all. And to get where we've to to achieve what we've been able to in that space of time, despite some problems, and issues, I think we're well positioned today. And I have been approached and continue to get approached by groups that are looking to capitalize Laguna, and that would give us, a lot more flexibility and runway, as well as being able to orient the crypto unicorns treasury more towards growth and less towards dev funding. And I think it puts us into a stronger position. So I have plans on that front, and this Roadshow deck is really the kickoff to me kind of running that process with a bunch of groups that we've talked to, as well as our existing investors.
Right, that sounds amazing. Next up, I think Rubik wants to ask a question. Hey, Rubik. He's here in voice call, and I've removed server mute, so can you try unmuting, please? Hmm. Okay, but let's wait for him to sort it out. While we're waiting, let's ask another question. Ready?
All right, it's from Slowly AM and Bruno TH. I've combined all of them. It's the Roadshow deck's looking awesome. How do we get the word out there to get more user and start the growth? What are the marketing plans and how do we measure success on the growth? What is expected?
Yeah, obviously, new DAO or new players per day is the KPI, right? And so seeing that begin to increase into the hundreds and then into the thousands is the initial goal. How we market is we all, first and foremost, as a community, go out and begin to evangelize this experience, and work to grow it within the wider NFT community. I continue to maintain that based on competitors in the space, we have a lot of potential growth just in the kind of crypto native NFT crowd. The CGI trailer will be, I think, a helpful thing that we can begin to blast around. And then we have plans on working with influencers in the space, as well as just generally getting more out there. Yes, I've done some Twitter spaces. We do the weekly AMAs and things of that nature, but it's not lost on us that we haven't really been pulling the growth trigger. We're very close to a partnership. I couldn't get it included in this deck because it was going through legal with a very large exchange and wallet provider that has a very significant number of wallets. So that will be something that we test and trial. I've mentioned many times before that I think if you have to go and buy performance marketing ads right now, you've kind of failed. And so we're going to try several tests that involve effectively airdropping postcards to raffles that could win you corns and land and things of that nature. I'm very interested in doing some select targeting on that front and seeing how well programs like that do. And then I think, I've just pitched this massive vision, right, with all of these new features. Every single time one of those comes out, we have a beat, we have something to go out to the wider NFT community with to say, hey, look what Crypto Unicorns is doing now. You weren't super into farming, you didn't understand how deep that sim was, you didn't want to play the spreadsheet game. Like, oh, that's cool. Hey, check out jousting, right? Like, oh, hey, you really wanted to play on mobile? Like, here's here's Unicorn Party, right? The most successful game Coda released has had millions of downloads, right? We are planning there will be kind of a free-to-play version of Unicorn Party. You obviously can't really compete or earn without having a Unicorn NFT, but if you look at the hyper-casual gaming market, they're usually very simplistic games, don't really have any IP attached to them, certainly don't look very good. And so if you just think about the hyper casual market on mobile, the opportunity to maybe even have a viral hit, or if we really wanted to maybe push some cheap installs, there's tons of ways to on-ramp people into the space. I continue to watch Axie Origin. They're the first to experiment with this free-to-play on-ramp, and the question is, can you get people to convert at the tail end of that free-to-play ramp? And so that's an experiment that they have going on that I'm watching very closely and interested to kind of see how it results. I think this hyper-casual lean is a good fit with the Unicorn IP, and again represents another fun on ramp, right? I'm talking to Ryan Wyatt over at Polygon Studios. Obviously, he's very well plugged into the Twitch streamer community. They all really enjoyed. Many of the top streamers were all over Fall Guys. And so Rainbow Rumble, I think, represents a really compelling opportunity to get someone involved, and I'm going to be very excited to leverage Ryan's connections on that front to see who might be the best fit. So that's all the off-the-cuff ideas that I'm at least ready at this time to kind of announce around the marketing front. And again, I think we're well set up to execute against that over the next 3 to 6 months, puts us into a great position coming into 2023. I told people kind of from the beginning that 2022 would be the year we get launched and we get stabilized and we get kind of our feet under us and we start to build momentum. And 2023 is the year that the flywheel should be really spinning. And as all of these things come together, I think you're going to see momentum not only build but sustain over time.
Amazing. All right. So it looks like Rubik is ready to ask questions. Hey, Rubik, you there? Hmm. Okay. We're just going to check real quick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Uh,
Hey.
I'm not used to push to talk. Sorry, everyone. And now I've gone blank on what my question was. What the hell? Give me
It's all good. Take your time, take your time. We did start earlier for you and our peeps in the APAC region, sir.
I can start off with one about a delegation. I was expecting a little bit more about delegation in this roadshow. There was nothing mentioned about that at all, was there? So could you give us a bit of insight into what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, as people have seen in the Founders channel, Capital DAO, ReNFT are the two groups that we are evaluating. And Capital DAO seems further along, and ultimately between those two, I do think we're 30 days out from having a system that anyone within our community can leverage. There's been a few more groups that have kind of come out of the woodworks, but I think between ReNFT and Capital DAO, we have paths forward on that front.
You still there, Rubik?
Buddy, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute again. God, I'm having a shocker. Sorry, everyone, again. Um, I do remember my question now. It was about two things that I was hoping to hear more about. It's about um, a burn mechanic for unicorns to help, eventually there's going to be too many of them and devalue because they're so easy to make. Is there any of these gameplay loops considering having leveling up potential where you could burn unicorns to get soul crystals to make your in-game leveling up of the unicorns have some kind of value? Something along those lines. I think, that's what I'll be looking.
Yeah, I mean, I repeat what I've said before, that there's two primary components. You have obviously the Shadowcorn Ascension and further evolutionary tiers of your existing unicorns, right? The idea is that, yes, we've seen all these economies go through a growth phase, eventually demand falls, and they just have this oversupply of NFTs and nothing to do with them. Right now at just over 55K unicorns bred to date, right? We're like at 1.8 per land, right? So we're still very early in that curve. Eventually, as we exit kind of the growth phase, we're going to need to transition into this maturity phase. And the shift has to be at that moment or over that period of time towards the upgrade of the unicorns that you have versus this, infinite production of them. A little bit of alpha you're kind of pulling out of me is that we are about to make a pretty big change to the energy system and how it relates to breed points in a way that I think will um, incentivize you to hold on to those corns, incentivize you to fully breed out. I think a weakness in many of the systems today is this idea that you're going to breed out a few points and then flip and move on. And I think we have a really solid and kind of compelling way to enhance the depth there and force the kind of align the incentive towards holding on to those corns given what you get as you breed them out. And then
Always happy with them.
On Rainbow Rumble, I do really like the idea of, and the challenge here is we would have to deploy a staking contract. But if you really wanted to get degen, you would have a Squid Games Rainbow Rumble, right? And the winner corn gets a lot, but many corns don't come out of that. And that might be rather interesting. You want to talk about a burn mechanic? 99 corns getting burned a game loop is a pretty intense mechanic on that front. So Rubik, totally valid question, man. It's something that we are thinking about, and again, I think the systems that will show up around Shadowcorn Ascension, as well as further evolutionary tiers for existing unicorns, are going to be how we do that. And I really like the idea that you called out around soul crystals being the kind of thing that forces the further evolutionary tiers. So you can either burn the corn, take a soul crystal, and ascend to shadow corn, or you can evolve an existing unicorn with the souls of others. Is a very, I think, good mechanic, and is very much in alignment with kind of how we're thinking.
Awesome. And I haven't heard you swear a lot lately, so I'm pretty disappointed. So I'm just going to say I'm fucking pumped. This is awesome. Thanks for showing us this tonight.
Thank you, Rubik. Thank you very much. Somebody noticed. I've been good. I've been trying not to swear as much. My mom said I shouldn't when she listened to one of my Delphi podcasts. But they slip out, and they will continue to slip out. Don't worry, Unifam.
He's been trying his best, guys. Great job, Rubik. Now everyone else follow Rubik and get that alpha out of Aron. Not my orders. Okay, next up we have Eric. Please come over, Eric. I put you on unmute, so you
Hey.
should be able to. Yes, there we go. Hey.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for taking questions, Aaron. So I'm a returning player. I got on very early.
Yeah, I absolutely remember you, Eric. It's good to hear from you.
It's good to see you again. I think we got on the Twitter space together. One of the early ones.
Yeah, it really
and
was one of the earliest.
And I took a look at the prizes recently, and I thought, damn, this is outrageous. I need to get back on. And I started buying, and I think everyone on channel, I know I've been kind of like soaking up. I bought up the floor for the cloud unicorns. Then I realized that land was the way to go, so I started buying rare lands, and then I thought there's a mythic land to buy, and so bought a mythic land. Then someone told me about shadow cons that you can feed the unicorns to. I don't know. So I went out there and got an egg. So now I'm super confused. So I'm not worried about the. Okay, I should be worried about the prices of the tokens, but I think those will be fixed. I think you got a lot of questions on that. I think I want to play the game for what the game is. So as many experienced NFT players are now looking at, or investors are looking at games that has the potential to kind of revive or come back strong, and I like the roadmap absolutely. Now my question is really now, if I've got some money to come in, what asset should I really be looking at? Should I be buying up the shadow cons? I mean, those looks really interesting. Should I be looking at land? Is because land is scarce, or are we minting more land because we've got we've got the land vending machine? Would that actually cause the price of land to come down? Basically, I want to put my money where it will hold value and where it will actually make me more money in future. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's difficult, Eric, because promises of price appreciation and future value are a struggle in the space. And so, how we think about it, obviously, we have assets that are limited in total supply. We talk about, Rubik was just on, asked this question about the generative side of the economy, and I answered how we kind of plan to manage unicorn inflation over time. The shadow corns are designed in kind of the antithesis of that. There are only 3,000 of those. There will only ever be 3,000 of those. They will begin to differentiate over time as some of them get ascended quicker than others. If you are interested in, and the experiment with shadow corns is, I think we can aggregate an audience of players that want to participate a little bit more passively. Shadow corns are going to have their own kind of meta and system. And if you can imagine what we've done with the unicorn, you have to burn a unicorn, create a soul crystal to create a shadow corn. Think about for a second land and what the equivalent in land might be there as well. Because shadow corns need a place to exist. Doesn't make sense for them to exist on normal land. What if you could corrupt normal land and create a shadow corn? And so that takes me to land, where you have 1 million total land plots. And a lot of people are like, wow, that's a lot. And I'm like, guys, Axie's peak DAO was millions of players. And if we collectively think that that's the peak for the entire space, I argue the opposite, that 1 million land isn't necessarily that much. But you need to understand something. Like, if you're right now sitting on land and you haven't touched it and you've got it listed, like you're in trouble, because we don't care about this idea that you can just buy something passively, not engage with the game at all, not engage with the community at all, and come back and expect a return. Go to the 10K profile picks for that, join one of the membership clubs, and hope that they maintain their, and grow their brand and their IP and their awareness over time, and like take that bet, right? If you're willing to progress land, and you take a level 1 mythic plot and you take it to level 10 and you go to secondary, like there's going to be players over time who I think want to purchase that upgraded land and effectively accelerate their progress. I see that working. I see that working really well. It's also important to understand that the land vending machine is designed to moderate the supply relative to new demand. So at times it will be cheaper to in-game craft a keystone, take the keystone out, input Unim RBW, a bit of ETH against the land vending machine bonding curve, and mint a new plot of land than it would be to go and buy on the secondary from the perspective of a level 1 land, right? We don't want fresh land listed on secondary. You should be buying it from the vending machine. You should be progressing it in game. And we want secondary land sales to be around leveled up and progressed land. So my question really to you, Eric, is like, how passive do you want to be within the experience, right? Early on, people bought mythics without understanding that there's a 6-tier system inside of the mythic bloodline. Like mythics can actually be bred in our game. You start with singles, you've got doubles. We've had a few triples come out. We've had no quads, no epics, or no legendaries, which would be a 6-part mythic corn. That system is designed such if you want to progress in it over time, right, you're going to have to breed mythics and breed and breed and breed and find the right bloodlines and grow that. And so I know we get some criticism over that, but the reality is like we've designed a system that forces you to play, forces you to progress, or you fall behind, right? And so it's difficult for me to say, oh, and I won't ever tell you, go buy these things and just hold it, right? So the question to you is like, how passively do you want to play, right? And then I can give you a bit more of a idea of like what you should, how you should ramp into our community.
I think we need to so I think we need to reward players that engages with the game. That's without doubt. I mean, I don't want a game that basically we buy an asset and we sit on it and then we expect the asset to appreciate. I mean, you're not doing anything about it. You expect to collect money. It doesn't work that way. So I'm with you on this. The mythic breeding, well, that one is smart. I bred my first 1 mythic today, and I was so excited, and I was just telling everyone that I'm starting a mythic breeding farm. That basically I'm gonna do like 1 and 1 to get 2, and trying to get down the formula right. I don't know if it works that way. I'm still figuring, but I mean, I'm gonna be breeding extensively once my setup get fixed. So that's the other thing. But and then I think with the land, I agree, but I think we do need a little bit more of a better UI to basically allow us to see like what level of land you're getting. I realized some of my lands that I bought were actually level up, and some of them were just brand new. So, but that basically will get fixed. But hearing you, land would not be a finite number. So,
Eric, just to clarify, land does have an absolute finite number of 1 million, right? We've sold 30,000 in the pre-sales, and with the launch of the land vending machine, players can mint a keystone in game with various soft currency material inputs and some Unim. And then you can take the keystone out of the game. The keystone is an NFT. You could trade that on secondary if you really want, or you take it to the land vending machine, you burn it, you put a little bit of ETH, Unim, and RBW in, it spits out a new land plot. That's against a bonding curve. And so every single time a player goes, the next price in ETH goes up like incrementally. The price in Unim and RBW doesn't change. And the idea is like we might get to 300K land plots, and that's the optimal size for our community, right? And at that point, most of the buys are on secondary because people want upgraded land, and the price of the bonding curve has kind of risen. And so, at the end of the day, everybody kind of sits here and goes, okay, we're just at the level of what the game can grow. The experiment here is, can you have a system that responds to supply and demand dynamics? And so we kind of expect there to be times where it's advantageous to mint new land out of the land vending machine, and times where it's advantageous to go directly to secondary. But it also acts as this incentive. If you're just sitting on land and not doing anything with it, like most likely you're not going to be able to flip that to another player, because why would they do that versus get a keystone and mint a new piece of land themselves? So I hope it's like this protection against, passive holders. And when I say passive, I mean truly passive. They're just sitting on the assets in their wallet.
And I'm going to say something very provocative here, I think, and get everyone excited, because if there's a finite number of 1 million land, if this game becomes hugely successful, like an XC at its peak, we maxed out the land prices is just going to go through the roof then, because that's the finite. I mean, we're not going to add any more land to that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, what's interesting too, like, I get that some people look at the MVP of the farm sim and they're like, this is not super fun. Like, we're not looking at this and going, oh, this is like super fun. I am entertained by the economy sim behind it, right? There are economy sim games that have done really well. I think we are attracting a certain type of player, the efficiency maximizer, the spreadsheet warrior, like the strategist. And there are people who get a lot of joy and kind of entertainment out of timing the market and producing certain commodities and selling that against the RMP curve. Like, I don't think we get enough credit for kind of the RMP, the real-time AMM that we run, that has soft currencies on one side and RBW on the other. But I make that point to just say, again, that's why we called it an MVP. There's a lot of layers that are coming on top of this that are going to appeal to slightly different player types. There'll be some overlap, but over time with so the Shadowcorn meta, right? We have Shadowcorn staking next. That's an event for all the Shadowcorn holders. It provides materials and resources that prep you for Act 2 of the Dark Forest. Act 2 of the Dark Forest is going to be much more of a war for the Dark Forest. Like, the Unicorns went in and explored it in Act 1. They explored a very small section of it, truly. We're going to reveal the full map in Act 2, and players are literally going to fight it out over who can win the valuable resources in the Dark Forest. That act will end. It's a little bit of an Alamo situation for the poor Shadowcorns. There are only 3,000 of them, right? And they are very, very powerful. But my expectation is, over time, the scale will tilt towards Team Unicorn there. And Act 3 is raids. That's when Shadowcorns show up in the Unicorn realm. And what you're going to see with the farm sim is it will evolve much more into a PvP Forex strategy game. Like I've said that before, that is our background as devs. That is the games that we were building for WB. That was the games we were building at the predecessor called Beyond Games. And that is where, like, I've had people reach out to me and they want to know what the end state of the farm sim is. And I'm kind of like, the farm sim is always the engine of the economy, where new unicorns are bred and evolved, where they're evolved for future tiers later, where commodities and resources are produced for the rest of the battle loops, the rest of the economy. And it's going to shift more and more and more into this PvP game that I think will be fun and far more sustainable long term than a farm sim, right? Because the ultimate end goal of a farm sim is, everybody will get too progressed and can produce too much, and new players can't do enough. And so having avenues for players that care more about defenses and defending against these minion raids and the things that are coming in the future, I think are going to really vary the gameplay. So sorry, I'm kind of ranting here, but I'm everything we've built, I always tell people it's an MVP, it's a test. If it goes well, we layer on it, we layer on it, we layer on it. And so the questing system, which comes after the performance update, or the performance focused release, is going to be kind of an exciting first step towards that, because it really varies up, the amount of corns you need, the material inputs, and begins to start to play into some of this Shadowcorn versus Unicorn fiction. So just trying to outline that there's really pretty expansive gameplay coming on top of what today is admittedly a very, very simple farm sim.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the questions, Aaron.
Yeah, Eric, I appreciate you coming back. Again, huge shout out. You're really one of the first people I went on a Twitter space with, and it's been a hell of a ride since then. So welcome back, and thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you so much, Eric. After Eric's questions, I feel called to throw out a random NFADYOR. Let's have a written question.
This one's from Nihat. Why are you developing games on both casual and hyper casual sides at the same time? What advantages will you get?
Yeah, great question. I think hyper casual is a really interesting genre because it's quick to pick up. The best ones are quick to pick up, hard to master. By making them real time PvP, I think you're going to have these really quick hit battle loops, and you can, because they'll be on mobile, you'll be able to kind of play them when you have a moment throughout the day. And so I think it's important to have gameplay loops that feed the bite-sized moments of gameplay, and hyper casual does that really well. Like I have 5 minutes, I can get into maybe at least one match, maybe two, right? And again, that's going to utilize unicorn energy. That's going to utilize whatever your entry fee was, whether it was unim or RBW. Occasionally, will be higher value things like golden tickets and stuff like that. And so, we want people to be able to dive into the experience even when they have just a little bit of time, and that's what hyper casual allows for. And it also gives us an avenue to growth. Hyper casual installs are vastly cheaper to acquire than casual installs on mobile. So if we do ultimately go down the rabbit hole of performance marketing and things of that nature, we can drive a lot more volume on that front and on-ramp players via kind of a very simplistic PvE experience that don't have corns. So I think that's kind of what hyper casual does. And then casual, Rainbow Rumble, I guess, is certainly a casual game on the spectrum. I think that the main difference there is, you'll have to sit down, you'll have to play a few matches. It's designed for a longer session, and something that you could maybe play for a couple of hours, right? And I think touching on both of those is important because you want people to be able to interact with our economy and our IP if they have a little bit of time, if they have a little bit more time. So I think it's a really good balance between both, and having both allows us to provide experiences that are just going to fit with player kind of schedules better. And there's a part of this too where this has always been about getting to the point where not everyone plays every single thing. I really hope that some people maybe are super into like Unicorn Party, and then when Rainbow Rumble launches, they convert over into that, maybe continue to play both. They may never touch the farm sim. I know a lot of people look at the farm sim and they say, oh, that's not for me. It's like, that's totally fine, right? It's for a very certain type of player that, again, is going to want to be very strategically competitive within the economy sim of our game. And if we do our job right at Laguna, it's making sure all of these things interoperate. So there is ultimately something for everyone. If you think about Mario, what is Mario today? If you think about Pokemon, even, what is Pokemon today? There's so many different game loops that have been built around these IPs. And we want to test and trial a bunch of different things to see what resonates, what allows us to grow, what allows us to kind of maximize our audience. Some of these may fall flat. People may not want to play these hyper casual quick loops. And at the end of the day, great. We'll sunset those projects and reallocate resources to the things that are working. Bringing on these second party developers is going to allow us to iterate much quicker and push the IP forward at a more rapid pace. But I view them all as experiments. Let's see what works and let's double down.
All right, let's have the next question ready.
All right, this one's from SW Marty 90. For those who have stake RBW on a hardware wallet and play the games on a hot wallet, how will that work for boosting staking rewards for players?
The badge system and the avatar system is how we're going to get all of that to interoperate. Um, so yeah, yeah, the badge system is the simple answer on that front. We have a way, we've been talking with Vault with respect to the V2 staking system. And yeah, based on level, the number of badges, points, it'll all kind of add up to a very specific boost. And I think the really compelling thing is if you continue to play and remain active and get more achievements and badges over time, your boost will actually increase. And I do think that's really important. I've been thinking a lot about distribution in the space and, do we care more about maximally distributing the token to um, active players and participants within our ecosystem? I think we do. And, I think that's how we, again, we believe in progressive decentralization. I want to one day hand the keys to our contracts and our treasury to the DAO itself. I believe that that is the right way to grow and is the only way to ensure incentives remain aligned over the long term.
All right, thank you for that information, Aaron. Well, OX Delta wants to say amazing partnership announcements. Very hype, Aaron and the team. The Caesar also has a three-part question. The first question is, some games in this space are partnering with esports teams. Now that we
Mm-hmm.
have an amazing roadmap, is CU already partnering with any gamers or esports team who can play these games? Will CU start their own esports business unit at some point?
That's interesting. I had never considered us starting our own esports business. I do kind of believe we're going to see a lot of the game guilds in the space transition more into, I've kind of said this before, like publishers and esports teams, right? I think that's the direction a lot of them will head, where they very much are competing really against each other to find the best players to put forward into these games, which I think are going to move more and more and more towards highly strategic and skill based gameplay in terms of reward distribution. So it's not about aggregating a bunch of players together. It is much more about finding the best players and putting them into teams and kind of structuring them. And so I would expect to collaborate very closely with guilds that kind of build out their own teams. I do plan to run and live stream tournaments around particularly these skill based battle loops. I mean, we already have things around jousting and racing, and similar to how Zed run Twitch streams, like that's of course planned with those core game loops. But we are very, very interested and will be hosting, both remote and in person tournaments and inviting teams to kind of join that. So I think it's a great potential use of the ecosystem fund. I know the community has been very conservative in the deployment of that fund. I totally understand that on some level, but it could be a really good way to incentivize those tournaments and hopefully see esports teams form. I do view Team RPG as kind of our pillar, and getting out, working with Gabby's team to build and deliver prototypes, get them in the hands of the wider community, run a lot of playtesting and feedback sessions against that, helping lean in and craft the meta. I mean, Rubik was up here with some great ideas for Rainbow Rumble. Like, we want to see more of that from the community with respect to each of these loops. Um, we'll probably run some tournaments across those prototypes to kind of see what's resonating, what's more fun to watch, from a third party perspective. There's a lot of considerations that we'll be looking at when going into that stuff. So it's a really interesting idea around us forming our own esports team. I do think the plan will be more host tournaments, put good prizes and rewards into those tournaments to incentivize other people to kind of form teams. As our tribes feature kind of launches and really becomes this internal in-game feature, I kind of expect obviously all the existing guilds to move into that feature. I think players will begin to band together. I'm certainly going to kind of get together with some LG team members, and I could actually see groups forming around that, because once we have the concept of tribes or guilds in game, now we can suddenly start to say, oh, well, now there is a daily guild leaderboard and you get 1 point, for winning one of the unicorn party, like, mini games, right? And so grind it out and we'll just rank on this daily leaderboard against all the other guilds and, see where we get. It's going to allow us to, I mean, at the end of the day, nothing has changed about games needing to run a lot of live events and keep content and the experience flowing and fresh for players. And this is going to, all these second party partnerships, as well as the core game roadmap, I think are going to give us a lot of opportunities for, things to stay fresh and exciting. Ryan Wyatt, again, on the Polygon Studio side, very close to him and the team there. They're also very interested in promoting esports, and that's his background. So I know we'll lean on him for certain connections, and maybe even try to, again, maybe that's the avenue for us forming a team. So yeah, it's something that I think is going to be a core component to growth in 2023 as these loops come out, Team RPG launches, and things of that nature for sure.
All right, sounds great. Second question to this is, will all these games be mobile first? Can we play these games on other platforms, etc.?
Unicorn Party will be the only mobile first version. With Rainbow Rumble, we're going to start in web, and then the community will vote on what next platform to go to. All of these are being built in Unity. The Iguanabee team on Rainbow Rumble has done console, Nintendo Switch. They've done and released cross-platform experiences. That drastically increases the cost and things of that nature. And so I want to test the loop and see if we all collectively kind of enjoy it. And then we'll select via a governance vote future platforms for that. But everything being built in Unity means that kind of cross-platform is kind of possible across all of these. So we might see, for example, Unicorn Party come over to WebGL if that becomes something that the player base is interested in. But we certainly heard the community. We understand that mobile is a platform that we need to get to. Starting with Unicorn Party is a really great initial version. All you'll do is connect wallet. It will read your NFTs through the app.cryptounicorns.fun hub. You'll be able to stash whatever currency you might want, and then it'll just, that balance will show up in that game. So the blockchain transactions are 0 on these experiences. You'll handle everything through our kind of slick web interface, in terms of stashing, entry fees in and rewards out, will be via the claim website and stuff. So trying to really smooth out that flow, ensure that none of our second party developers have to go through some of the pain that we went through on blockchain transactions and things of that nature. And that means that we're going to be able to, at least given current guidance, get onto the iOS and Android platforms without issue, based on current guidance.
Thank you for that. And lastly, from OX Delta, how many players or revenue are we expecting from these games? What is the core focus from these partnerships?
Yeah, all told, I would like to see hundreds of thousands of players participating in these loops. I think it is possible across them all. I think with hyper casual, there's this test of the kind of free to play on ramp, and seeing if this IP resonates enough with a mobile free to play player that they become interested in checking out crypto unicorns and kind of ramping into the experience. I think based on what you see in similar titles in Polygon, that we can scale the kind of core farm sim to the low hundreds of thousands of wallets as kind of a starting point. And then I view all of these additional loops as a way to take us towards the upper hundreds of thousands and maybe into the low millions. Again, Axie is kind of the reference, as they've got the peak DAO achievement right now for just the wider community. And so we kind of know that there's potential to grow into that. Though obviously we're trying to grow into a slightly different audience on that front. So it's unclear what the max market is currently of just NFT kind of crypto native wallets. I think it's probably in the low millions in total. And then you have to think about, well, what percentage of those players would want to touch, any one of these games, right? And my hope is that there's something for everyone in the Crypto Unicorns arcade.
Okay, thank you so much, Aaron. So do you have more time, or shall we end it around this time already?
If there's more questions, I definitely have another 15 minutes or so for sure.
Okay, perfect. Let's have another question.
Sure, it's from Beach Trust Revenge. Hope I didn't butcher that name. When should we expect the performance update? P.S. Roadshow Deck is sick.
Thank you. Huge shout out to the art team for all everything looking pretty. I don't build things that look pretty. The performance update, it kind of depends. That there's likely going to be two hot fixes, kind of a server hot fix and then a client server release. We are targeting the next 30 days right now. You can look at Zesty Bean's kind of very detailed like code level. He's like really showing some of the changes that we're making in the code to get a better idea of what we have ongoing there. So yeah, it is what I would consider the next release and a very short term timeline on that front. We're also trying to put some of the UX wins that I mentioned to Blackfield and others around simplifying farm claim to make that just a more fun moment of joy, reduce the number of clicks by 50%, and then adding things like filter and sort by energy remaining on the corn selection menus that kind of prompt. I think those are like the biggest early wins that we can kind of tie alongside this performance update. And then questing is obviously a new UI that's being designed by a recent hire that we've onboarded into the team. They're also kind of working on jousting to get out ahead of that feature for our engineering team. And then they'll be returning back to take a look at the farm experience in particular to kind of apply a fresh coat of paint and take a lot of the suggestions from the community. So we have this running list based on community feedback in the suggestions channel. We do watch that very closely, and if you are in that channel, we very much follow the like and dislikes to help us stack rank what is viewed as kind of the highest priority for the community. So if you want your suggestions heard, definitely make sure to head to that channel as we're actively keeping a tally on that front.
Okay, let's have the next question.
Alright, it's from Cosmic NFT Raider. Will we be able to use shadow corns in these new game modes?
It's certainly possible. I mean, they use the same unicorn rig and the same asset pipeline that all the second party devs are using to pull down and make sure that everyone's corn will get displayed. There's no extra work on that front. as they ascend, they get really big. That's the problem. They're much bigger than the unicorns, and they're going to get much bigger and turn into these kind of like raid boss things. So it might be kind of funny. That's why I laugh to put, this like have a Rainbow Rumble special Shadowcorn level that just sees these massive Shadowcorns bowling into each other and falling off the map and stuff would be like a lot of fun. So we don't plan to leave them out, but we definitely have to think about, how we integrate them into the experience, or we just make it super funny and they're, just as tiny as the unicorns and stuff. But it might be kind of interesting. Or you put one Shadowcorn in a level, and it's like if it touches your unicorn as you're trying to get through the level, you instantly lose or something. Might be kind of fun. So like there's really interesting ideas. Like I need to reinforce that we've together bootstrapped this enormous treasury, 24 million bucks. We have years of runway. None of these projects are reducing that runway. I'm folding them into the LG budget versus trying to grow the LG team at this time. I mean, obviously, we continue to hire. We've hired a bunch. We're on ramping those team members. But we're at a point nearing 100 people now that we need people to settle in. We need to get our dev cadence up. We need to right the ship, have a couple of just polished good releases come out, gain our confidence back, continue to kind of move forward. With each of these second party titles, again, like it's an opportunity to build together. We're coming forward with the initial vision on these things, but we want suggestions and tweaks. Please be active in these channels as we're sharing updates and as you have ideas. It's going to be fun to build them together. My dream here is that we're all in this sandbox together, building unique and fun experiences and sharing them with each other. And so, and again, like it would be this crazy overcommitment to say, oh, we're going to do some like level design builder. Like that's not really the intent, but it would be pretty easy to have a contest where people submit sketches of wipeout level design, right? That we then skin into actual Rainbow Rumble, levels and things of that nature. So the UGC part in the deck goes beyond just lore and story and becomes something about. I think a lot of dev teams are like, oh, I want to give all these editors and all this stuff, and that's complicated and it's difficult to build that and release that tech. It's a lot easier to say, hey, here's all the assets for these levels. You can go and piece them together and design your own. Take a screenshot. Let's share it. Let's then vote as a community on what we end up wanting to see. So a little bit of a rant, a tangent, but I think it's applicable because there's going to be phenomenal suggestions that come out of the community, and we should look to incorporate those as much as possible. To again, the let's build the thing that we want to play together. Like how many people have had an opportunity to really participate in the development of a game? I think I've recognized that Laguna as a developer has, again, as kind of said this, we pulled back a little bit in the chaos of post-launch and just having to kind of deal with everything that we were dealing with. And this is very much, I view a page turning and this like reassertion and this refocus on leaning back into community, because it's exactly what got us here today. And it is exactly what will make or break us now and into the future.
All right. Let's have another question.
Okay, this is from Winter and Summer. Where can I find information about the companies with which you've partnered? What is their audience reach? What's the turnover of the games they've released, and what games have they released?
To be clear about this, I've already offered for the CM team to compile some information, but since it is an important question, I also wanted to see what Aaron has to say about it.
Yeah, for sure. Winter and Summer always likes to ask the pointed questions, which I appreciate. Google it. Look up Coda. Look up the Coda platform. Look up Zabaatsu. You can download many of the Coda platform games today. You can download several of Zabaatsu's games, including, I think it's called Booster Carts, or it's Booster Carts or something. It's actually a very fun game. And then, of course, Iguanabee. You can just go look them up on the website. We will be sharing out links. And then again, if you're interested in the development progress, be on the lookout for new channels in Discord where there'll be as of next week, sharing weekly updates on progress with the community.
All right. We have a question from L. Any updates on the exchange partnership you alluded to previously, Daddy?
No, they lots of legal and compliance reviews. So as I mentioned, I believe have a kind of pending partnership with a large exchange that has a wallet. I think will be an interesting test from kind of a marketing perspective to see how much of their community via co-marketing efforts and some featuring ends up kind of getting pointed our way. Beyond that, we have ongoing discussions with the exchanges you could imagine. The Polygon Studios team has been super helpful on that front. We had one exchange, they didn't like that we had a proxy upgradable contract for RBW in particular, which is ridiculous because they've listed other coins. I think one called Dog that is that way. And oh yeah, USDC, you may have heard of it, is an upgradable proxy contract. So that was a little ridiculous. I think we made a mistake of leaning into that exchange, which was a bit smaller as an on-ramp into some of the larger exchanges. And so I'll kind of own that as a tactical strategic mistake. Now that we're working directly with the Polygon listing team, which is dedicated to getting projects on Polygon listed on the kind of, I would consider it the top 5 exchanges. We're making progress on that front, and it's not lost on me that we're going to want to see those listings occur as the growth phase begins to kick off here for sure. Great question, El.
All right. We have just enough time for one last question. Witty?
Sure, it's from TS Plus. Recently, Circle froze People's USDC in the Tornado Cash contract because OPEC recognized Tornado Cash as an example of illicit use of crypto. In my opinion, it's a sad day for the crypto space.
I
Do you
agree.
see USDC as a risk asset since they are now a company that's known to freeze assets and CU uses USDC? What's the risk for Tornado Cash users that are also CU gamers, which have CU assets?
Yeah, so we are at the final boss in the crypto space, the state level actors and the governments. And at the end of the day, their control and power exists around the fact that they control our monetary supply, period. And yeah, so the ban against Tornado Cash is not necessarily a surprise. I understand why they did it from their perspective, given you have seen groups like the Lazarus Group from North Korea leverage it as a way to wash stolen currency. But I'm also, you're talking to somebody I've got the self-sovereign individual on my book stand next to where I sleep every night. Like, I'm a big believer that you should be in absolute control of your own identity and data. And so I agree, it's kind of a sad day for the space. The positive angle is maybe we start to get some clearer regulatory guidance that makes this space more acceptable. At some point, I'll go on a whole rant about how money controls politics and crypto is internet native money, and we are seeing it get so big. Here in the United States, we're seeing lobbying efforts grow and grow and grow. That is a very positive sign, in my opinion, that will push on politicians and put in place politicians that put forward more favorable guidance and regulatory oversight over this industry. As far as a risk to us, we have already somewhat diversified into DAI and USDT for better or for worse via the balancer boosted pool that we've deployed liquidity into to begin yield farming for treasury growth, as well as some market making operations, and I will say liquidity bootstrapping, which will be announced in the very future, in the very near future on that front. Listen, straight up, as a US based company that's been fully compliant with all regulatory guidance and laws, I sit here in this position and go, USDC is fine. We have known for a long time that they had the ability in their contract to effectively blacklist and freeze assets. DAI is USDC predominantly, so switching over into DAI really doesn't save us from that. USDT, I still have more concerns over. There's always been this question of what do they really have backing each and every one of those. Again, if they fall apart or there's some fraud on that front, it would be a disaster for the whole industry. So I'm not throwing shade on them. I'm just pointing out there's been this very consistent concern for many, many years around USDT. And so I don't view that as a better place to hold our value in the treasury over USDC. Frax, and others, I just wouldn't risk the amount of capital that we have betting on the more algorithmic flavored coins. If you're a decentralized maxi LUSD, which is only backed by ETH, is probably, in my opinion, the best of the stables right now. But LUSD has far lower liquidity, is integrated in far less places, and again, I think represents some risk. In that it is ultimately backed by Ethereum and, could depeg in severe market conditions. And just given the global macro uncertainty, I still feel that USDC is the right place to place our capital. Again, anyone who has touched Tornado Cash, you're certainly at risk. I would highly suggest, moving assets to wallets that didn't touch Tornado Cash for sure. And you're going to have to move them through central exchanges. I mean, it's a really problematic thing that they've done, and it shows how little they really understand about how this space operates. So happy to answer any follow-ons there, get in the weeds more if there's additional concerns. I know we're kind of at time, but it was a great question to kind of end on, just kind of looking at the wider crypto space today and that recent announcement.
Okay. So Vinny, can you see any other questions that are related to that?
None for that particular questions. I'm really sorry for the other questions. We don't have much time.
But thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to come over and watch the Roadshow. We just love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here to witness what we've been working on and for everybody's insightful questions. We hope that this peek into what's in store for crypto unicorns gets you excited the way it made us feel excited when we were planning and preparing it for you. Do you have any closing thoughts about the Roadshow and the AMA, Aaron?
Just a huge thank you to our community and team. I actually recently completed a number of one-on-ones with many of our new team members. I'm so happy and thankful that we've had such incredibly brilliant, passionate people on ramp into Laguna, and to the wider community. You're looking at a group of people who genuinely care and believe in what we're building and understand that we have this phenomenal opportunity, and it's on us to consistently deliver and build and expand this IP and this ecosystem. And I came away from those conversations and one-on-ones just excited and humbled that we've been able to attract the caliber of talent that we have. And I'm incredibly excited to kind of see the next 3 to 6 months and really look back and see how far we've come again. As I look back now at what has been just an incredible year, one of the best of my entire career, even with some low points. And I can't wait to experience what's next with the team and the wider community.
Completely agreed. Do you remember your one-on-one with Aaron, Witty? Got any
Yeah.
tea?
Well, I was amazed how he was able to one-on-one every one of us. I mean, to find time like that, I
Yeah,
know
he
we have
felt
a loving CEO.
we stand. We have no choice but to stand.
I
Too
mean, I
good.
love Aaron. I really love Aaron. No homo though.
No homo? Yes, homo.
Yeah.
No?
Yes, yes and no.
Mm. Meanwhile, Aaron's just here being uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Aaron. But yeah, we
Well, good. It's not a
truly
good
did.
AMA or town hall if somebody doesn't get uncomfortable a little bit.
Oh no.
Look
But
out for
yeah, I
more
really.
updates, everybody.
Ooh, boo.
Ew,
We'll
ew.
post a we will post a recording of this on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with co-host Witty Unicorn. Good morning, good night, and see you in game, Unicorn fam. You can stay up for all too for the Roadshow After Hours, where we'll be playing music and asking for your thoughts on the Roadshow. Stay tuned. Also, please remember that we'll have a maintenance period approximately 1 hour, no, around 42 minutes after this AMA. This will take approximately 12 hours. That means the maintenance period will start at around 9 a.m. PST or 4 p.m. UTC and end at 9 p.m. PST or 4 a.m. UTC. There's an announcement over at the maintenance channel with a timestamp that automatically adjusts to your time zone, so give it a look. We'll also let you know when the maintenance period is over. Please note that the game will not be available during this window. During the maintenance period, there could still be issues, so please don't do anything until we raise the gates. It's possible that your account might get in a bad state if you attempt to play during the maintenance period. In the future, we'll have a feature that will make the game unplayable during maintenance. But in the meantime, please take note of our announcements. If you run into any issues, please wait until after the maintenance period is complete for them to resolve. In case it doesn't, please fill out a ticket on Zendesk. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I will be playing tunes over at the Stream Lounge. You'd like some relaxing music while trying to play catch up with your unicorns.